Recording in
Okay,
progress.
thank you so much. Good morning, members, colleagues, the department led by, I see the minister. I'm not sure if the deputy minister is here. She's here. Good morning and sincere apologies for starting the meeting 18 minutes late. As we were scheduled for 9:30, I had to do a quick interview with one of the media houses with regards to the review of the Correctional Service Act 311 of 1998. Subsequent to that, two utterances that the minister would have made last week in the budget speech vote debate on bringing back corporal punishment. So I had to adhere to that interview, and also emanating from yesterday's media briefing on security cluster. Some of matters that media houses want an update on them. So my sincere apologies for starting the meeting 15 minutes late. Honorable Sokopo, you can switch off your video. Sia, you can flag the agenda. I think you have done the boardroom. Is it the Pretoria boardroom? I must wear my glasses when I need to look at the Pretoria boardroom, because they look so small. See, you have done the sound check with the boardroom of DCS and everything?
Yes, Chair, we've done the sound check and the sharing. I think we're good to go, unless technology will be dealing with us.
Let's pray that it doesn't. Colleagues, members, there's the flagged agenda, the proposed agenda for today's meeting. Opening and welcome. I would have done that and equally apologize for starting the meeting 18 minutes late. And then we would have the 2 would be apologies. 3 would be a briefing by the department on the progress of implementing the audit action plan, which emanates from irregular expenditure. Subsequent to that, on the basis of our annual report meeting of last year on remedial action that the department is to do to curb the irregular expenditure. So, and then 4th would be our own meeting outside the department as led by the minister to consider and adopt our own minutes. And the last point would be closure of the meeting. Can I have anyone who moves for the draft agenda so that we can proceed? Honorable
I
Engel.
propose, Chair.
Okay. Carl proposes. Engel.
I will second.
Thank you so much. We can then proceed. The agenda is fully adopted. We can then proceed to DCS boardroom. Mic is on. Thank you. We'll then move to apologies. Sia.
Morning, Chair. Once again, morning to the meeting. Chair, we only have, from our side, we only have one apology from Honorable Tobisa Ngaba. She has a family matter to attend to. She sent the apology last week already, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we also, I just forgot to send you an apology from the Deputy Minister. So I'm not sure if she has managed to join. DM, are you here?
I am here, Chair. It's just that my network in Barberton, it's not good.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, as long as you are here, an apology that I received from the DM was that she would be part, but she would have network issues as she's part of a preparatory committee that is dealing with logistics towards the funeral of the former deputy president of the country. David Mabuza. So that wasn't the apology. So it's noted, DM. And then as and when you are able to speak or audible enough, you can then indicate so that you are allowed space to come in. Then would move to item 3, which would be led by the department, led by the minister, on the audit action plan to curb irregular expenditure. Minister, over to you.
Morning, Chair. Thank you very much. DM, National Commissioner, honorable members, officials, good morning to you all. Chair, I'm not going to be long. I just want to say that I'm not going through all the names. The names are on the platform, who is in the meeting. I think this is an important matter, and that is about our finances. And yes, it is just correct that we give some feedback, because irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure is a very serious matter. Although I said before, we have budget constraints, you all agreed that we have insufficient funds on the debate. And I also want to use this opportunity to thank each and every member who participated in the debate last week. Thank you. And yes, there are some parties who vote against it. It's, of course, they're quite right, they're right. But I think there was one consensus in the debate, and that is that everybody agreed that we have insufficient funds. So in that sense, I want to thank the committee, because I said, you will remember when I started, we have to face the problems and we will have to take hands. And I think that is a good example that we can all take hands. So thank you for that. I think I'm going to hand over to the accounting officer, which is the National Commissioner, and then we can deal with questions. So from our side, through you, Chair, I don't know, it's in your hands if you want a DM to say something, but I hand over to you and then through you to the National Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. National Commissioner Samuel. Before that, DM, are you are you still able?
No, Chair, I'm okay. We are covered by the minister, and thank you.
Thank you, DM. National Commissioner, DM, you can switch off your video. National Commissioner Samuel.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to you and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Greetings also to the Minister and the Deputy Minister and colleagues in the department. In the main boardroom, we have the Chief Deputy Commissioner responsible for IT. We have the Deputy Commissioner responsible for internal controls. IT is Mr. Maponya, internal controls is Mr. Daum, and then we also have the DC in the National Commissioner's Office, who is in the Cape Town office, and yes, myself. The presentation will be delivered by DC Mutau. As submitted, Honorable Chairperson, I thought I should just do that introduction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, National Commissioner. Your audio, I think it's a bit bad or fuzzy. Maybe it's on my side, but I could hear you, and I see you are ready for the unannounced raid after the Portfolio Committee. Who is doing the presentation?
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee. Like the Commissioner has indicated, my name is Abel Mutdown, Deputy Commissioner Internal Control and Compliance. Am I audible, Chair?
Extremely audible. I saw Gito there wearing a suit. Is it Gito?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Okay. Oh no.
Right.
That's good.
No, thanks.
You are audible, Mr. Mataung. You can then proceed.
Thank you, Chair. And also I want to extend the greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, the National Commissioner, and the colleagues on the virtual platform as well. Chair, our presentation on the audit action plan, actually the presentation is going to reflect on the audit action plan as well as the progress that the department has actually made to address the irregular fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and by extension also progress relating to unauthorized expenditure. Chair, just to zoom in straight to slide 1, which reflects on the presentation layout. The presentation touches on the purpose, the background, the summary progress relating to the implementation of the audit action plans, which provides an overall view of what has transpired since our last meeting in November 2024 with the Portfolio Committee. And then it will also touch on the progress on the implementation of the audit action plan for 23-24, and the summary of the progress of the implementation of the material or key findings, which is where we are now lifting the key issues that were audited by the AG, and as a department, we are also tracking on those ones. And it will also touch on the progress relating to the clearing of the irregular fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And lastly but not least, we will also briefly touch on the consequence management issues. Now, moving over to the next slide, Chair. The next slide which talks to the purpose. The purpose is just to appraise members of the Portfolio Committee on the progress that we have made as a department since our last meeting with the Portfolio Committee. And it also touches on the audit action plan, as I have previously alluded to, as well as the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Now, on the next slide, Chair, we are actually briefly indicating to say, since our last meeting on the 20th of November 2024, we have been tracking 68 findings out of the 72 that we actually raised. 6 of the findings were actually areas of dispute, and some relates to IMS that were closed due to arbitration matters as a result that one couldn't do much. And one finding relates to the IJS cluster system gap, which the department could also not follow up on that. Now, in the next slide, we will be talking now in the next issues relating to the audit action plan. The summary progress, Chair, is that as of the 30th of April 2025, the department has actually implemented 79% of the findings as reported by the AG in 23-24, which is 58 out of the 74. And we are in progress. We are actually monitoring 16 findings, which is 21%, which we could not actually close at the end of the year. The 16 findings, Chair, they talk to the GTO. Almost 13 of those findings relate to GTO, where GTO could not actually implement as a result of budget constraints, because when we were doing an analysis, we came to realize that for them to implement, they need financial muscle. In summary, for them to appoint, for instance, Oracle database administrators, personnel, to assist with the implementation, and also the renewal of the magic license, just to name but a few. And then the other findings, I think 3 of the findings relates to the incarceration as a component within the department, as well as the Gauteng region. But the 2 relates to the overcrowding, Chair. As you might be aware that AG have raised findings relating to the overcrowding, but as a department, given external forces, the department couldn't actually implement or fully implement the overcrowding strategy to reduce overcrowding across all facilities of DCS. And as a result, as a department, we are saying, irrespective of the challenges, we are quite aware that we have to keep on monitoring the implementation of the overcrowding strategy to realize that eventually there will be an impactful reduction on the overcrowding strategy. Now, on the next slide, Chair, that is where we are now providing a table of our findings, where we are in more detail across the functions that were audited across the department. Now, that's where we have reflected the 74 findings. We'll see that the incarceration ones have been highlighted in amber together with the Gauteng region. Those are the findings that I spoke to earlier on to see they relate to the overcrowding. And if you are still on that slide, Chair, you will realize that the GTO, we still have 13 of the findings that are still in progress. As I mentioned earlier on, they relate to the budget constraints. As a result, they couldn't actually fully implement those findings. So in summary, that's where we are. Can we move over to the next slide? On the next slide, Chair, that's where we are highlighting the key issues that were audited by the AG in the 23-24 to say where we are in terms of the implementation. The first one relates to the unauthorized expenditure of the 614 million that was reported by the AG. In terms of treasury regulations and the PFMA, the department is required to do an investigation, to do an assessment, to see assessment and determination to see whether it was indeed an unauthorized expenditure, and also to determine to see which official might have caused that unauthorized expenditure. So where we are in terms of that, Chair, we have actually started with the investigation. We are actually only waiting for a report from finance that will give us the key spreadsheet that will indicate at the granular level, that is at the lower level, itemize the base in terms of the budget and expenditure, what actually happened, so that we can actually close and finalize the investigation on the unauthorized expenditure. And the next one is on the long-outstanding investigations of the irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Chair, here we have actually, in summary, we have actually made 89% of the progress out of the total population of the closing balance of the 6.7 billion at the time, which is 23-24 financial year. We have investigated 89% of those findings. We are at a point whereby we are now dealing with the remaining 778 million of the irregular expenditure to close entirely the investigations on the irregular expenditure. Chair, of the 778 million, where the department is now, we are doing the assessments and the determination of those cases with the view to finalize them before the end, within 6 months before the end of this financial year. With regard to the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, Chair, similarly, we have actually implemented 91%. In terms of the rent value, we are only left with 14 million out of the 159 million that was actually reported. Chair, can we move over to the next slide, please? Speaking of orders, Chair, we have investigated all the cases, forwarded the cases to Treasury because they were found to be irregular, and Treasury has actually condoned three regions, which is Gauteng, KZN, and LMN. We are still waiting feedback from Treasury on the other remaining regions. So the cases have been forwarded to Treasury as I indicated. We are looking forward to the final feedback from Treasury so that we can close that matter. The prevention and detection of the irregular expenditure as reported by the AG, what we picked up, Chair, is that in the main, it was as a result of the splitting of orders. But now what we have actually done as a department, we have looked at the internal control deficiencies that led to the failure to prevent and detect the irregular expenditure. So the trend that we have observed so far is that the cases are now on a diminishing trend of occurrence, indicating that the current preventative controls are effective. And on the other hand, with regard to the detection, the department is currently demonstrating an increased ability to detect and disclose cases of on the registers. And how do we know that, Chair? Is because we went to the registers, we compare the number of cases that have been reported this year, which is 24-25, and we compare to the 23-24 and see whether are we having a diminishing trend. And Chair, from where I'm sitting, yes, there is a diminishing trend, meaning that the controls are now adequate and effective in that area. We don't envisage any challenges going forward. In the next slide, Chair, which talks to the transaction that were below 1 million rands, what we notice is that, as reported by the AG, yes, the transaction, there were instances of the irregular expenditure where the department was actually not, where the department was actually doing the work in an inconsistent manner across all the regions, and the misinterpretation between the SCM police as well as the SOP. But as a department in 2024-25, on the 9th of January 2025, we issued a circular which was forwarded to all the regions to ensure that there's a consistency in terms of application and interpretation of the police as well as the SOP. That's where we are. The next slide, please. On the next slide, we are talking to the issues of the payments not made within 30 days. Chair, that area is still happening, but what we have actually noticed from an internal control perspective is that the trend has been reducing in terms of the percentage of the cases where the 30-day non-compliance was actually identified. However, we realized that in the last 3 months of the calendar year, which is November, December, and January, the trend was actually in an increasing, it was an increasing trend, but we realized that it was mainly caused by also the budget constraints because the department had to prioritize the payments with regard to the invoices that were received. But as a measure going forward, the department is actually now busy finalizing the prior period and the current year invoices that were received to ensure that the matter is actually closed. On the other issue relating to the internal control deficiencies on the ICT, Chair, what we have noted is that through progress that has been registered with GTO findings, a significant number still requires to be resolved or implemented. That is 66% were implemented. Out of the total findings that were reported, I think it was 38. Whilst we have noticed that the 13 findings are still outstanding, and those 13 findings, we had a discussion with the GTO to see what could have led to the non-implementation of those findings. And we are very comfortable that from our analysis, it was also due to budget constraints. They couldn't actually do certain areas or issues. However, going forward, that in the 24-25, then we have received an assurance that due to for 24-25 budget allocations, they will actually start to prioritize those funding those 13 findings so that they can be implemented. Can we move over to the next one? Now, Chair, with regard to the progress relating to the clearing of the irregular fruitless and wasteful expenditure, as I have reported, the opening balance was 6.7 billion for irregular. For fruitless was 159 million. New cases in the 24-25 were 2 million roughly, and for fruitless and useful expenditure was 514,000. But what we have done, we have actually removed 2.4 billion of the cases. The removal of the cases, those are the cases that were on the register, but through the investigation and assessment, we realized that those cases were actually not fruitless, irregular, fruitless and wasteful, and they were found not to be irregular. And as a result, we had to remove the cases from the register through a process of issuing memorandums and doing the assessments and determinations. And then as a result, they were removed. Now, the next one was cases that were forwarded to National Treasury for condonations. This is cases where now they were found to be irregular or fruitless and wasteful, and officials were actually found to be responsible to have caused that. The department has investigated those cases. Consequence management was actually applied, and the portfolio of evidence was forwarded to Treasury for Treasury to condone. We have actually received the feedback for 2.2 billion that was actually condoned by the National Treasury. Now, the last on that slide is cases in progress for condemnations. So the 1.3 billion, they were investigated and forwarded to Treasury. Now, the reason why we have separated the two is because these are the cases that where the feedback from National Treasury has not been received as yet, but the cases have been investigated and forwarded to Treasury. So at any time we are actually awaiting feedback. That's where the closing balance now, which we are dealing with for assessment and determination, is 778 million. We are actually, like I indicated earlier on, the same with fruitless at the 14 million. We are in decision to complete this exercise by within 6 months, because we are now busy with the assessment and determination of the remaining cases. Now, in total, for irregular, as I've indicated before, we have completed 89% of the investigation. Similarly, fruitless and useful expenditure, 91% of the investigation. Now, moving over to consequence management, which is the last in our report, Chair. During the investigation process, 59 employees were disciplined and received different sanctions. These are the officials where, during the investigation, we realized that they have caused irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Where fruitless and wasteful expenditure is concerned, they were actually debts were created with the expectation that the employees needs to pay back through arrangements or through immediate payments on the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. For irregular expenditure, various disciplinary outcomes were actually discharged, where officials have received written warnings, verbal warnings, and final written warnings, and then there was 4 officials that were dismissed to date. Can we move over to the next one? The next slide, and which is the last, Chair, it's actually a table of what I've actually summarized in the previous slide, where we are now reflecting the status per region, head office being considered as a region as well. That's where the 59 officials is coming in. We'll actually note that the written warnings were issued across all the departments, which is 24 written warnings, and the final written warnings were 23. And then dismissals were 4. Can you move over to the next slide, Chair? No, that was the end of my presentation, Chair. Thanks.
That was very short, Mr. Mutau, and thank you for that. We are used to long presentations, not that long, but yeah. So I see the NC has joined the boardroom. Thank you for the presentation that you have made. The members have received the presentation in advance, so they will be able to engage the presentation. Members, any clarities or questions? Honorable Engelbrecht, I see your hand. You'll start. Honorable Carl, you'll follow.
My hand is up, Chair.
Oh, sorry. It was not up. You will then follow Honorable Carl. I see Honorable Trotter says he has a bad network. Babkasa, you will follow Honorable Sokopo. So those are the hands. Honorable Engel, you can start.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to everyone, and thank you for the presentation from DCS. I only have a few questions. Now, in terms of the budget constraints for GTO findings in slide 3, the presentation states that critical GTO findings remain unimplemented solely due to budget constraints, with resolution that was deferred for the 25-26 financial year allocation. Given that there were known requirements arising from the 23-24 audit, why were they not adequately prioritized and funded within the current budget cycle? What specific costed plans are in place now to ensure that 25-26 allocation definitely resolves these issues? Then in slide 4 and 5, that's titled the progress on implementation of material and key findings, but contains no substantive information, only repeated headings. Given the critical nature of material key findings, why is there a complete absence of detail on the status, specific challenges and resolution plans in the progress report? Can the department provide a detailed breakdown? And then lastly, the recurring issues in GTO underfunding and ineffective overcrowding strategies, this is slide 3 again, suggests systemic budget prioritization and planning failures. What fundamental changes is the department implementing in its planning and budgeting process to ensure audit action plans, especially those requiring funding like GTO, or complex interventions like overcrowding, are accurately costed, prioritized, and adequately resourced from the outset to prevent a cycle of non-implementation? All from my side. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Engel. Honorable Moela, I see your hand. You will follow after Honorable Gasa. Honorable Niehaus, it's your turn now.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to thank the members of the department who've given us this update on how they are dealing with irregular expenditures and the findings of the Auditor General. Let me make, first of all, an overall statement, and that is that I find it quite disconcerting that a number of the long outstanding audit matters are not yet addressed. I look at the figures that we have been given, and although on a percentage basis it seems that there's some progress, there's still a considerable amount of money in terms of how it was affected by these long outstanding matters that are implicated. And I would have liked to have received a clear indication in terms of how long some of these matters had been outstanding, and also what the interest is that is accumulated out of these outstanding matters. Of course, Chair, when we deal with those issues where the department says that they have difficulty, like GTO, and also the issue of overcrowding, there has to be some understanding about budget constraints. As far as the overcrowding issue is concerned, obviously this has got to do with the whole justice cluster and the sequence of how people end up in prison, and also those that are awaiting trial, and the large numbers that continue to be awaiting trial. So I would like to know from the department, in which way are they engaging with the Auditor General, for the Auditor General also to engage with the other sectors of the justice cluster in order to address this issue. Then on slide 7, there were reference to breaking down to a more granular, a more detailed understanding of accountability. Unfortunately, I do not see much of that in this report, and I would love to understand how the department makes sure that exactly those who have been responsible for irregular expenditure are held accountable. So that granular breakdown is absolutely critical. Now, towards the end of the presentation, the department was referring us to some of the actions that they've taken to keep members accountable. I note that there are very few who have lost their jobs. And of course, one is not gunning for people to lose their jobs, but one would like to know that there is true accountability. I also am quite concerned to understand what the numbers in terms of the amounts are that people have been told that they must try to pay back out of salaries. Because I think if we deal here with significant amounts of funds that have been used irregularly, it may become just a kicking of the ball down the road, so to speak, and very long repayment processes, which once again will feed into this problem of long outstanding matters not being resolved. So I'd like to know how this accountability process works, and if it is indeed sensible to talk about, rather than other disciplinary action or even possibly dismissal, to expect from members to pay back where there was irregular expenditure. As far as the issue of splitting of orders is concerned, I'm happy to hear that that is something which is diminishing, and I would like to urge the department to make sure that this issue of the splitting of orders is prevented as far as possible. This is a gateway to corruption and a gateway to managing to avoid accountability. I do want to raise my concern about the issue of the 30 days payment for work delivered. And I want to raise it in two ways. First of all, while I understand that there's some funding constraints, we really have to do everything within our means to make sure that especially small and medium-sized enterprises that are engaged by the department get paid. Non-payment has a devastating impact on those companies, and many of them have been destroyed by non-payment of government entities. I also want to warn that there is throughout government, not just in the Department of Correctional Services, a tendency by those who are managing the payment of orders to delay orders, and sometimes in a very corrupt way want to receive kickbacks in order to facilitate an order being paid. And I hope that the department has got the necessary systems and cross-checking in place in order to avoid such corruption. And then lastly, Chair, I would like to express the hope that the department will make sure that the ICT issues that it refers to, which is critical for proper auditing, is in fact going to be dealt with and eventually sorted out. It is a malaise in government, not just in the Department of Correctional Services, but throughout government, that ICT is not given the necessary attention, and therefore we have paper-based systems which are far easier to manipulate and far easier to have corruption. And then lastly, in those cases where there have been irregular expenditure, and the department says that we've checked this irregular expenditure, we've come to the conclusion that it is not, therefore we have regularized this. Have we got the guarantee that on each one of those irregular expenditures where this conclusion had been reached, that there was also finally agreement with the Auditor General and with the National Treasury on these matters? It is a finding of the Auditor General. Surely the Auditor General must be fully involved in the process of agreeing that such expenditure will now be classified as regular. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Niehaus. Honorable Sokopo.
Thank you, Chair. Let me take the opportunity to welcome the presentation. Chair, my first question would have been that this presentation indicates that there were 68 findings. The BRRR shows 74 findings. What would have been the status of the 6 unaccounted findings? Maybe if you can just get the response there. What is the current protocol in terms of authorizing expenditure? Who are the signatories responsible for checking compliance? And how has the department internally ensured that they are strengthening the systems to prevent reoccurrence of these findings, especially that they are aligned to supply chain processes? Chair Jito, I wanted to check, Chair, service providers that are used by Jito, are they used anywhere else? Whether it's any other government department or anywhere else? And if so, what is the state of the performance of these service providers? Does the department consider engaging SETA? Because SETA have a responsibility to look after issues of IT and so forth, and check how can they be of assistance with some of the challenges that Jito is finding itself in. Indeed, like the opening of the minister making reference of irregularity, fruitless expenditure, and wasteful expenditure. And I must raise the Chair that that thing doesn't come with no consequence. I saw the last part of the presentation shows that there is some action taken. And I have interest because if you look at the sums of the amounts attached, they are huge amounts. And I'm just thinking that if these are things that have been happening, is there no way that some of these things happened planned? It's not mistakes, they are planned. And if they are planned, is there no criminality in it? And if so, what is the department doing about it? I also see you speak about long-term contracts. Again, we had this discussion last week. And again, we find it that you're dealing with issues of coal, you're dealing with issues of toiletries, cleaning material. And I want to reiterate it today again. understand the issue of coal, Chair, because it's a scarce commodity. It's not a commodity that you'll find in any province. But I will have serious challenges, Chair, if a supply of toilet paper, a supply of handy cannot be given to locals in that particular region or area management for that matter, and be considered to be a national thing, and somebody who's in PE will supply the whole Western Cape with toilet paper that he must come and find in the Western Cape. So, I mean, it's not something that is scarce. It's not something that cannot be done by any person who is an SMME who starts a business. And I'm interested to check the interest of the department in uplifting SMMEs. There's a new thing of 70-30 of locals. What is the department saying about the 30% of ensuring that locals benefit? Because that is a government policy, that the government have taken a decision that in whatever that they are doing, 30% must be given to locals. Lastly, Chair, the issue of capacity that is procured outside, I take it is consultants again. And I'm trying to check whether is the department considering engaging other entities that are of assistance, the National Treasury as an example, to allocate or to send people to come and assist without going to procure a service from a private sector. And I'm thinking that this thing of procuring service of a private sector must be considered as the very, very last resort if we don't have it in the government, sister departments and so forth, that are there by nature of their establishment, not only to manage finances in particular, like I've made the example of CETA, but also to assist struggling departments. I would have then known that in local government, in municipalities, we used to get assistance from OCTA that will send people at no cost to the municipality. We would use the National Treasury to send finance people to come and assist at no cost to the municipality. And those kind of assistance is the department not allowed to make use of such. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sokopo. Babkasa.
Thank you, Chair. The department's presentation on audit action plans and irregular expenditure fails to demonstrate credible accountability or tangible resolution of systemic failures. And the key concerns includes 79% implementation rate is misleading. Only 14 of 68 findings were closed, with the majority, which is 58%, 58 merely labeled implemented, despite unresolved root causes, like budget constraints for JITO, persistent overcrowding, and the issue of financial management. Irregular expenditure lacks transparency here. No detailed breakdown of amounts recovered, written offs, or disciplinary actions taken. And again, the issue of systemic failures. Dependence on external processes. Look, 5 findings hinge on an arbitration process and 1 on a cluster system gap, indicating a poor external control. So my question is, can the department provide a list of 58 implemented findings with evidence of corrective measures like policy changes, recovered funds? And the second question is, can the department table all consequence management reports showing disciplinary hearings, sanctions, and criminal charges filed against responsible officials? The last one is, can the department disclose the total value of irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure for 2023, 24, and 2024-25, including amounts recovered or written off? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Babkasa. Honorable Muela.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to the Minister in the platform, DM, the National Commissioner, and the commissioners from the DCS who are present here in this portfolio committee meeting. Let me also recognize yourself, Honorable Chairperson, by a manner at which you always represent the portfolio committee on the current issues which are of importance. We've seen your consistency with regard to the cluster briefings, and you've been handling matters very well, representing the portfolio committee. We should also take this opportunity recognize your hard work. We have noted the presentations, Honorable Chair. On the presentations, the presentation says that there is a amount of 614,257,000 which has been incurred under unauthorized expenditure, and the department is currently conducting internal investigations into the expenditure, tie up loose ends. What is the reason for the lack of transparency as it relates to this funding? Because the BRRR report indicates that same figure was incurred under compensation for employees. What is the investigation underway and the loose ends in this particular regard? Then we have also checked with regard to the progress on clearing fruitless and wasteful expenditure. The committee recommended that the department recovers wasteful expenditure amounts from those responsible and implement consequence management. How much has been recovered and what steps have you taken to initiate this consequence management as per the recommendations of the portfolio committee in this particular regard? Then with regard to the reduction of the overcrowding, the committee has recommended that the Department of Correctional Services continues to engage other departments within the justice cluster to find ways to reduce overcrowding in correctional centers. How many S63A and 49G applications have been conducted, and what was the result in this particular regard? That will be my submission for now, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Muela, and members for the questions. I would also want to throw in one or two of the questions and basing them on the report that would have received before us the last time we met with the team on the audit action plan. And this has to do with the long outstanding investigations that we were informed as there's a hand, E. Hendricks. Who is E. Hendricks here?
Good morning, Chair. Mr. E. Hendricks is a replacement chair of Honorable Daniels from the PA. He's now the member of the committee. It's his first meeting today.
What is the name?
It's Ernest, ma'am. Ernest Hendricks.
Honorable Hendricks.
Okay, Honorable Hendricks, I was closing off on questions when I see your hand.
So, sorry, ma'am. The device, they just gave me this device, ma'am. I'm still getting used to it. Sorry for the late end, ma'am.
Okay, you can proceed.
Thanks through you, Chair. Just want to greet our Honorable Minister, the DM, and all colleagues present. Ma'am, in the debate, I think it was last week, where our Honorable Minister indicated that about 11 million goes to illegal foreigners in our prisons. And we've been speaking. Firstly, I want to also greet members of the Correctional Service. He made a comment that 11 million goes to illegal foreigners in our prisoners, and I think they contribute to the overcrowding in our prisons. So I would have wanted to see more in the presentation on these illegal foreigners occupying beds and also eating into the budget of legal South Africans. My next one is the unauthorized 614 million, which to the guys of the Correctional Service, there's no clear breakdown to where and how with these numbers that they are playing around with. And for me, Chair, it is funny that as adults and people working as professionals in the department, that we don't understand how the goods and service of transaction value below 1 million works. It is mind-boggling for me, and I know I grew up in the correctional service, and it feels like it's a norm. This is a norm. Department is waiting for money to yet again do the same thing, come to us, and then report all of this like it's normal. Let's go to the next meeting. Let's go to the next presentation. No accountability whatsoever. That is how I see it. I might be wrong, Chair. Another one that is very painful. Our brothers and sisters are starting SMMEs, doing business with correctional service, but yet again wait 6 to 7 months for payment. Sometimes they never get paid. That is one painful one also. My second last one, Chair, is the financial management. It is clear the department, it has become a norm in the Department of Correctional Service to mismanage funds. I heard in the presentation to finalize some of these GTOs, the department is waiting for money. It says to me that this will happen in the next financial year again. We will hear the same old song. And in conclusion, as I said, the department, it looks like the department is consistent with this corruption that they're busy with, and it does not look like they are going to stop now. I thank you, Chair, for indulging me. Thanks, Chair. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Honorable Hendricks, and welcome to the Portfolio Committee of Correctional Services.
Thank you, ma'am.
You would get your foot right and be able to catch up. Sia, who is the committee secretary, will be able to furnish you with the work that the Portfolio Committee has been entrusted to do in the past year since our formation or election in this committee. Let me raise one or two questions for clarity. We were informed, I think, last year in November when the team appeared before the Portfolio Committee on the Audit Action Plan on investigations, that there was a company appointed to deal with the backlog of investigations or irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure cases. I want to find out, how long has the service provider been contracted for this investigation, and how much is the department spending on this particular service provider monthly? And then the second question would be, how does the unauthorized expenditure impact this current financial year's this current financial year allocation, and how has it been catered for in this financial year? So these are my two clarities. Minister, I'll hand over. Oh, the last one. But let me leave it. I think we'll have it when we have a separate item to deal with this matter. Minister, I hand over to you and your team to respond to clarities and questions that members would have posed with regards to the presentation that we would have received.
Thank you, Chair. I think there are specific questions on specific matters, and the NC and his team can respond to that. Can I say that there are certain questions that is very important, because I also want to say that we must ensure that we get to a situation where this, can I say, unauthorized and fruitless spending comes to an end. And somebody asked to indicate how long is some of these matters coming, and that is important, that we know it is a process that is coming quite a time, and there is quite a lot of improvement. And that for me is most important, that we must keep on improving the situation where we can get to a situation where we have completely clean audits. So let me say, Chair, I hand to the NC and his team to give the specific answers on the specific questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. DM, are you still on the platform? I think she's not. National Commissioner, you can lead us with your team with the responses.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me also appreciate the inputs and the questions from honorable members and yourself, Honorable Chairperson, and the pre-push by the Minister. Honorable Chairperson, I'm going to request that the main presenter, Mr. Madawi, starts with the responses. I will come in later, except to deal with one which was raised by Honorable Moela on the applications to the Department of Justice, namely the judiciary, with regard to implementation of the overcrowding strategy. We will provide the latest report. When we appeared before the Portfolio Committee, we did provide the breakdown of how many applications we made and what was the feedback from the judiciary. We also indicated that there are meetings that are convened by the judiciary in the regions. Our regional commissioners attend those meetings. They present the cases also. And myself, I do attend a meeting convened by the Chief Justice, and those issues are raised. What I would call the average response is that more than 80% of the applications are not receiving a favorable consideration. But as I've indicated, Honorable Chairperson, we will submit the latest report. This matter we treat it when we appear before the committee on overcrowding. The issue, there are other issues, Honorable Chairperson. Let me not get tempted. Let me, through you, Honorable Chairperson, allow Mr. Mtawi to start off. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, National Commissioner. Chair, through you, I am going to respond to the issues that were raised, particularly those that are talking to investigations of the theory of the irregular place of national expenditure and the audit action plan. However, relating to matters that are more specific to GTO as well as financial issues, I will request my colleagues who are on the platform, CDC GTO as well as the DC Financial Management Dossier, also to assist in responding to those issues. Chair, I'm going to respond to the issues, some of the issues that were raised, though not in any particular order as they were raised. Maybe let me start first by saying there was an issue of the unauthorized expenditure, the breakdown of the revenues that are not on the report, and there was a consent to say members want to the information relating to the breakdown, what actually makes the unauthorized expenditure of the 614 million. Chair, as I've indicated before, the matter is still under investigation. Yes, we are collecting data and information that will actually give us a breakdown at a granular level to say exactly at a particular item level what actually happened. So part and parcel of the report and analysis, well, part and parcel of the outcomes will be shared with members once that information has been, once the matter has been finalized from the investigation point of view. There was an issue relating to the long outstanding investigations as reported by the AG in the 23-24. The issue was to see what actually transpired. Chair and members, I can actually comfortably report that all the matters as reported by the AG in the 23-24 as long outstanding, the department has actually conducted assessment, determination, and finalized investigation. There are quite a few of those cases that are still be left for us to close. However, we have done the assessment and the determination. It's just an administrative matter of signing off in some of those cases. But we have actually prioritized those cases, and we have actually implemented them as expected from the department. There was also matter relating to the list of the 58 implemented findings, a request for a report on that, as well as the report on the consequence management details. Chair, we as a department, we can provide because that information, it's on the register of the irregular place of national expenditure. We are talking about two registers that are very detailed, which were not part and parcel of this submission, but we can avail that information as required by the members. And there was a matter relating to the criminality of the 59 cases, whether did we refer any matter of criminality relating to the irregular place of national expenditure. Chair, what I can report is that of all the cases that have been investigated so far by the department, we haven't actually come across any instances where a case will have actually warrant referral to the SAPS and any other relevant authorities such as the SIU. However, should we come across such, we will actually be referring such to the relevant authorities as required by the framework of the National Treasury. There was also the issue relating to the irregular expenditure guarantee. How do we guarantee that the AG that these cases are regularized? What we do, we investigate, and then further assurance is provided by our own internal auditors and also the AGSA. As we investigate and finalize the cases, they are actually forwarded to the AGSA for further auditing and to give an assurance to say the work that was actually done is in line with what was expected. AGSA, as we speak, Chair, they are busy with the audit because they are following up on what transpired in 2024 and as part and parcel of the audit of the 2024-25. So we are still waiting feedback on that. And we are also, the guarantee is also provided by the cases that are referred to Treasury for condonation. Now, once we investigate the case and we realize that it's irregular or it is actually forwarded to Treasury for further processing. And as I indicated earlier on in my presentation, we have been receiving a positive feedback from Treasury, meaning that they are actually agreeing with us or with regard to all the matters that have been forwarded, hence the condemnations. There was, there was also a question on the 30-day payment to say, what system do we have to ensure that we manage the 30-day payment? There is mechanisms within the department conducted by financial management to ensure that from time to time they compare invoices to the information that has been received based on the dates to ensure that each and every invoice received does not actually go beyond the 30 days. Yes, it has happened, as I reported in the past, due to budget constraints, but the mechanisms are in place to ensure that we minimize or we mitigate this, the impact of risk going forward. There was also the issue relating to the engagement of the AGSA on the overcrowding. That one, I think, yes, we are actually from time to time engaging the AG, but I think CDC can speak more further on that because it's actually managed by the GITO as well as Incarceration and Corrections. The discipline matters relating to the outcomes to say why few people have lost their jobs. It is because of the nature of the investigations and the outcome as determined by the chairpersons of those investigation outcomes. To say, given the precedents and other matters, considering all the facts, whether the outcome does warrant a dismissal or not. Each and every chairperson or investigator will come to a different conclusion. As a result, as coordinators of these investigations, we don't have much influence on the investigation process. There was also the issue about the status on specific challenges relating to the irregular expenditures. The status of the cases as well as the cases are reflected on the detailed register. As I've indicated that it can be such a registers, if required by members, they can be forwarded. Thanks, Chair. I think I have responded to all the matters that talks to the investigation in the main as well as the audit action plan. But relating to matters of the GITO and finance, I'll request my colleagues also to respond there on. Thanks.
Thank you, National Commissioner, Honorable Chairperson, and all members of the Portfolio Committee, the Minister, the Deputy Minister. Maybe before I answer the other issues, Chair, I would like to add to what DCICC had indicated on the 23-24 unauthorized expenditure. If you look at what was tabled for DCS in the 23-24 annual report, yes, indeed, we did disclose the 614 million as unauthorized expenditure. And if you look at the last part of the annual report, which is the financial statements which were audited by the Auditor General, the makeup of the unauthorized expenditure is in the appropriation statement of the department. In the main, the department overspent on the compensation of employees, which was 671 million. The smaller part came from goods and services, and the other items underspent. So that's why we came to the net of 614 million. When the National Commissioner reported to National Treasury in terms of the PFMA, to indicating the unauthorized expenditure of the department, the letter was very clear that in as far as the unauthorized expenditure was caused by COE, which in the main was due to the underfunding on column, then it would be difficult for him as an accounting officer to then comply with the other processes of investigations and all of that, because in the main, the contributing factor is treasury themselves in terms of the underfunding, which we indicated. It's not that it is something that happened and we're all surprised. We indicated to National Treasury when we were dealing with budgetary processes. We indicated to National Treasury when the accounting officer was reporting to National Treasury in terms of the PFMA Section 40 on a monthly basis in terms of what we call the inner monitoring reports that we are projecting. Hence, the accounting officer also wrote National Treasury requesting to be exempt from the budget cuts that were underlying, especially in the space of COE, because there is a ceiling. The letter that is given to the accounting officer clearly indicates, in terms of the allocations on an MTF basis, that the COE is set at a ceiling. And when it is appropriated and sent to Parliament, it is quite clear that we are dealing here with a COE ceiling. The figures are set as conditions in the letter to the accounting officer. So when we reported as finance to ICC to say, yes, we've we've overspent and the matter must go for investigation, it is in compliance with the processes and the framework of unauthorized expenditure set by National Treasury, but we are very clear on COE and the element of underfunding and corner issues, which subsequently Treasury did allocate some monies. And also in the current MTF, they did try to allocate some monies to stabilize the collar issue in the baseline of the Department of Correctional Services. I'm not going to go into the goods and services because that would be like preempting the whole investigation processes. But I must indicate that the accounting officer did write National Treasury formally, and in terms of the 25 MTEF, there was a question that talks to the GITO findings in as far as they relate to the funding issues. We're very clear in terms of funding constraints because we have to be fair to DCS in terms of what has been allocated that is in the baseline. And therefore, if there are any interventions that are to be effected by the accounting officer, either then you reprioritize and cut elsewhere. And when you have a series of budget cuts historically, where do you then reprioritize? And number two, you then get intervention in terms of additional funding. The department on record did write to National Treasury requesting the space of GITO and other areas, but I'm going to remain with what has been discussed in the space of GITO, additional funding for the 2025 MTF. We then engaged National Treasury through the budgetary processes in MTEC, in bilaterals, and also in the cluster, the JSPS cluster where we present. And we did prioritize, and because Treasury then said, out of all the requests that we've given them, we must go back and give them in a prioritized list. The department complied with that. And if you look at our prioritized list that we sent to National Treasury, the GITO interventions in terms of funding were top of the priority. If you get a single cent from the priority list that we sent, there was no additional funding in the 2025 MTF. If you look at what we sent to Treasury, in total, over a space of 3 years for GITO alone, we requested, which is the 3 years of the MTF, we requested a total of 828 million for various interventions that bulk of them would have talked to the digitization in the space of correctional services, but also interventions in terms of the findings. And some of the findings, for example, in the space of findings that we have of monitoring our invoices and ensure that we are very proactive in that space. We do need a system, especially in the space of Santo payments, which is the bulk of our payments. And there's several members that have mentioned the question of us not complying to the 30 days payment period. It is a fact. But if you look at the makeup of who are we not paying within 30 days, the bulk of entities that were not paying within 30 days, in DCS in particular, it is not service providers, private service providers. In the main, the bulk of our payables that are over 30 days, as we disclose them in the financial statements, they are in the space of government departments and government entities that we're dealing with, whether we're talking PMTE, whether those many entities. It is not necessarily in the space of small service providers or just general service providers. For example, in the 24-25 financial year, the makeup of the payables that are over 30 days, the service providers, out of the 823 million that was payables, they only take 8%. And the bulk then is other government departments that are rendering services to us. Remember, we get services from health, we get services from DPWI. There's many service providers that are government and also government entities. So we do monitor that in terms of payments within 30 days. And we've enhanced our action plan in that space, because it's one part just to monitor after event what payments we did not make within 30 days. But we then added in the operational plan of the department that we should then begin to monitor, though at this stage on a manual basis, because we do not have a system that will assist us on salary payments. I know Chito is developing a module for the IODs, which we think, and also the health invoices, which we think is going to assist us for the bulk of our salary payments in terms of the health space. We added that we should monitor the payables, and we've set a non-compliance, not that we are saying it's good not to pay within 30 days, but being practical. We've set a risk appetite of 1% for both. That is, for payments not made within 30 days, we've set it at 1% non-compliance as a monitoring target, and we've set also the payables over 30 days that we should at least seek reasons and corrective measures if any region, if any branch, if any component in the department does not pay within 30 days. We've set controls, Chair, that if as a component you are processing a payment and already that payment is in excess of 30 days, you have, as part of the supporting documentation that you submit to the financial control offices across the country, you have to provide reasons why you have not process these invoices within the space of 30 days. And those reasons we look at, and we do report on a monthly basis by the 7th of each month to National Treasury in that regard. And we do monitor ourselves and provide, as part of our action plan, and those reasons, and so that we can address the underlying factors. We have instances, Chair, that we've seen where some of this non-compliance is non-compliance that have got to do, especially at a center level, with the staffing levels that we have there. Where, for example, a clerk, there's one clerk that supports the nurses in a clinic, and all the NHLS or hospital bills would then go to that clerk. If that one clerk is on leave, we do experience problems, and when they come back, that's when then we get the processing and the reasons that a person was not there, because we have to ensure at all points that at least the internal controls are not or are actually adhered to. So segregation of duties, we do ensure that we adhere to, but we try as far as possible where we can be able to supplement with the security officials. That's what is happening at the ground level. So most of these processes at finance, some of them because of capacity constraints, we get assistance from the security officials that then the heads of centers would allocate to us. In the space of JIT, I should mention that because we didn't get any money in the 2025 MTF process, which is the current financial year over the 2 years, that the one that the minister gave it last week, we then have started already the 2026 MTF process internally as a department. The deadline for submissions was 30th of June. And JIT, remember, if we didn't get money, we always indicate to all program managers, sub-program managers, RCs, that you are welcome to then submit your MTF bids. So we issued that communication to all sub-program managers and program managers, And we gave a deadline to say, please reprioritize your baseline, starting the new process. If you have any need, please submit your MTF bid. GITO again submitted the bid. We're busy with coordinating and consolidating that process. We are, because Trevor has not yet given us a 2026 MTF budget guidelines, but we've started our process because we're a big department. When we receive those guidelines, we'll then ensure that we finalize our submission. And again, we'll submit together with other bids, the GITO bids. What GITO has submitted just this financial year is about in excess of about 350 million on the various interventions, which include addressing the finances we received. There was one comment that was indicated about us not being able to accommodate due to budgetary constraints certain aspects, and it was then I think it was indicated that it is financial mismanagement. It is not financial mismanagement. To the extent that you are constrained and you are appealing to the right component of government to assist and to engage accordingly, and you are not the funding, it can never be financial misconduct, nor construed as financial mismanagement. If you look at the cluster baseline, it is so pathetic sometimes how much is allocated to us. At some point, we've even, if you look just at vehicles, you compare within the cluster, what is in the baseline. One does that exercise just to look at within the cluster, how much are we sitting with? And you go, as portfolio committee, welcome, because these are public documents. Just look at subs. They've got over R1 billion a year just to buy transport equipment, which is the government vehicles. You look at DCS, we struggle. We've got 50 million just to replenish our fleet and also ensure that our bombers are all we replenish. I don't know when last we bought bombers are the trucks that we use to transport offenders to various places and to courts, and if we transfer them also to other correctional centers. So those are issues that we've raised. We've never been quiet at MTF level. If there's one department that raises issues, it is this department, and these reports speak for themselves. We've raised these issues. We've raised the kind of not what is the right English word, unequitable, not equal, but unequitable funding levels. We're on record as a department raising those issues to say within the cluster, we're not equitably funded, given what we need to be dealing with as a mandate of this department, not luxuries, but as a mandate of this department. We've raised sharply those issues to say that they have got to be an objective look at the value chain and ensure of this criminal justice cluster and ensure that at least we're equitably funded as a department, so that when we're in the last part of this value chain, you're not just taken for granted from a budgetary perspective. You're not left to fend for yourselves. And yet you've got very small space to maneuver in terms of what you then do and delivering in terms of our own mandate. So Chair, in a nutshell, I think I've touched on those components, the three components that deal with finances, the budgetary issues, and some relate also to the GITO funding. Thanks, Chair.
Good morning, Chairperson. Let me greet the Honorable Minister, the DM, the National Commissioner, members of the Portfolio Committee, and the colleagues in the boardroom. Chair, I'll just quickly touch on the 13 findings that are in progress on the GITO. Chair, we've got two findings that relates to our unlicensed Oracle databases, which we did not have funds to license, and hence we could not implement that. And then we also have 8 findings that are relating to the ANR system, which we also could not implement because of funding constraints. And also we have 3 findings that relates to the SQL Server database. though the conserver database is licensed, when we do upgrade it, then it causes ANR not to work, and hence we put that on hold. We are trying to find alternative ways in which we can reduce the risk that NG has identified. I'll go also to questions asked by Honorable Stokov. The list of service providers. We've got a number of service providers that are assisting us. I think we of importance, we've got the GMA that did our data center refresh, and also did our backup and disaster recovery solution. So in terms of performance, the progress has been implemented successfully on time, and the maintenance thereof is doing quite well. We also have Brilliant Telecommunications that is doing our voice over IP. So the progress thereof is that they have done about 50% of the work, but due to bandwidth limitations, they cannot continue up until they upgrade some of our bandwidth so that they can then implement work in those sites. And then we have IT Monkey that was doing our email security, but we are onboarding a new supplier now, which manages our email security. That was also doing work with the National Prosecuting Authority. And then we have Dimension Data that is doing our maintenance and support of our firewall. That's also on the security space of things. They are doing quite well there. But in addition there, Chair, we also have procured Microsoft Unified Support. That when we do have challenges with our Microsoft solutions, we can then call Microsoft directly to assist us. I think, Chair, those are the questions that I just needed to clarify on. Thank you very much.
National Commissioner, you still want to take a bite to wrap up where you think you should add?
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, but I have just highlighted to Deputy Commissioner Marega that there's a question that you asked, Chair, that was not answered. That needs, I think, an answer with figures. So she is requesting to do that.
Thank you, MC, and thank you, Chairperson. Apologies for missing that question. The service provider that is assisting the department with all the three types of expenditures, reckless, wasteful expenditure, irregular expenditure, and unauthorized expenditure. For 23-24 financial year, we paid, which is actual expenditure, it was 10.9 million. And then in the last financial year, which is 24-25, it was 36 million. The latest reports I've had for 25-26, we had not yet paid them. That is up until June. We're still busy with the July month reporting check.
Okay. Honorable Chairperson, please.
Yes, National Commissioner, you can wrap up everyone where you feel you still need to clarify.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me start with the last one. I have indicated to Finance that this is the last time we utilize an external body to assist us with the investigations, because we have built a repository of experience in the department. And of course, if we look at the figures, they have actually gone down tremendously. The propensity of the department to attract irregular expenditure in terms of the report has gone down to 2 million. And also on unauthorized, we've gone down to 500 and some odd thousand rands. So clearly there would not be a need for us to continue with this external intervention. Safe to say that it has assisted us, because quite a high number of this unauthorized, irregular, and wasteful expenditure was historical. So it really needed a lot of work, especially mining the evidence or documents that are supporting the financial transactions that we have gone through the system over those years. Honorable Chairperson, just on the issue of the protocol for expenditure, I thought also finance would deal with that, but expenditure is authorized and paid at different levels, given the volumes and also the amounts. And DC Malaga did indicate that there's an issue of segregation of duties. Honorable Sokopo was saying who are the signatories. So now that would mean you must submit for the whole department those that have that delegation. And if that is what Honorable Sokopo was referring to, maybe we can provide that. But I thought that it is important to indicate that in terms of the standard operating procedures and the requirements on internal controls, we have a clear structure on who authorizes what at what level. The issue of specific objectives with regards to supply chain management is an issue that was raised in the previous portfolio committee, and we are attending to it. That would mean that we also have to look at departmental supply chain management policies and procedures and engage with Treasury on ensuring that we do not contravene Treasury regulations and the guidelines that are there. It's an important issue, as it was raised by Honorable Soko. The issue of National Treasury assisting on dealing with audit findings and on procurement, DC Mutaun did indicate that we interact with Treasury, even on the national contracts that we have started implementing. We requested the approach. We wrote to National Treasury and requested them to advise and approve the approach that we wanted to take, and we did get that advice and approval. On the issue of the findings, 74 as compared to 68, the table on the summary report refers to the number of findings as we can read them back to the BR report. I think the gray area there is that the way findings, before we developed the audit action plan, the way findings that between ourselves, National Treasury and the AG, we agreed that they have to be closed. And the way findings that also when we assess them as the department, there was no need for us to develop audit action plans. So we basically had already addressed them as the final outcome of the audit report. Hence, that the difference in terms of what are the findings and what the number of the findings and the number of the action plans that we develop. But the table on slide 6 refers to 74 findings. The issue of consequence management report, we do report to the portfolio committee when we are reporting on consequence management for the whole department through human resource reports that we present to the portfolio committee. We can provide an extract from that report on consequence management that has to do with the audit action plan and provide to the portfolio committee. Honorable Chairperson, there are statements that I would not respond to. There are general statements that have been made with no, I would say they are not supported by evidence, but they are statements that were made by members of the portfolio committee. What we can do as the department is to err on the side of caution by ensuring that we are not a department that is associated with such statements. So it means that we have to continue to work very hard to reduce the findings every time we get audited towards a clean audit. Where there are findings, we treat them accordingly in terms of the Treasury guidelines. If develop an audit action plan, follow through. We have to ensure that we prioritize in terms of the funding that we receive, in as much as DC Mareka did present elaborately the challenges that we are facing on the issues of the budget. We have made a commitment that we will prioritize IT, and this is the commitment that we made 3 years ago. And the report that the CDC G2 has just given now shows that we did live up to that commitment by funding the projects that he was outlining here that are getting successfully implemented. So we'll continue to do that in this financial year. Other areas obviously will have to suffer, and then we obviously will have to continue prioritizing IT until we get to a point where, when it comes to internal controls, we have strengthened ourselves with regards to the software and the technical capacity we need on the side of IT. The detail that has been requested, Honorable Chairperson, is just to distill it, and then we provide it to the portfolio committee. The presentation as it stands is a presentation that was informed or is informed by the audit action plan, the final audit report of the department, and that will be our report as it were. There were issues that were raised, Honorable Chairperson, by Honorable Engelbrecht. We view them more as issues that are on the side of more improvements with regards to the department, and I have just addressed them by indicating that we will attend to the issues of IT with regards to the budget reprioritization, the issue of overcrowding strategies not being effective. It's a matter that the minister has taken up, and the deputy minister through the cluster. We are on en route to present to cabinet, and as I did indicate when we appeared before the portfolio committee, the approach that we are taking is an approach that identifies what specific actions should members of the cluster undertake in contribution to reducing overcrowding, over and above the submissions as per the Correctional Services Act, the 49G and the 63 section. There are specific actions, for instance, that the Department of Home Affairs has to take or implement with regards to foreign nationals. So the presentation or the report to cabinet will ensure that when we get that opportunity, we get cabinet to pronounce on the burden that must be carried by other departments, therefore making the overcrowding reduction strategy effective. The issue of how much amount should be recovered or has been recovered, we will include that in the specific report on consequence management, the detail on consequence management that I referred to when I was indicating that we taken out of the broader consequence management report that we submit to the portfolio committee through human resource management reporting. The regular classification or the removal of irregular expenditure amounts from our books as an outcome of the investigations, whether we do that in consultation with Treasury and the AG, yes, we do that in consultation with Treasury and the AG. This is the issue that was raised by Honorable Nihau. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I will stop there.
Thank you so much, National Commissioner and your team, for the responses. DM, are you back? So the DM is still not back. Minister? Any addition that you want to put?
Thank you, Chair. No, I have nothing to add to. I think it is clear. I think what we must take note of is that when it comes to irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure cases, the processing of 89% of the cases, where we had more than 6.7 billion. At the moment, it's totaling to 778 million outstanding for finalization. I think that is important. And also, when it comes to the fruitless and wasteful expenditure cases have been investigated and clear from an opening balance of 159 million, with only a total of 14 million outstanding. I think that is important. We must take note. But of course, at the end, we must ensure that it is zero at the end. Thank you, Honourable Chair. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Minister. Members, were all the questions you posed all answered? Honourable Niehaus?
My hand is up, Chair.
You will follow after Honourable Niehaus.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thanks for the responses that we've received. I'm glad to hear that the department is closely cooperating with the AG and the National Treasury about the issues of those irregular expenditures that they regularize. What I would like to get more clarity on is what are the longest outstanding cases of irregular expenditure on the books of the department? I didn't get that response. If they can't give it to us now, it will be fine if they give it to us in a response in writing. And then with regards to the issue of accountability, how many people have actually been charged and have actually been taken to court, and out of such court cases where they were, how many have actually been given a sentence? I would like to have those statistics also. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Niehaus. Honourable Sokopo?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I just want to come back on the last responses by the National Commissioner. And in his responses, I'm not sure why, but he would have responded in the same tone of kind of questioning our questions. Let me give an example where he even make mention of my name around the issue of signatories. I'm sure I'm aware, so that I put it on record, that this is a national department. And I would have not raised a question about signatories, then it would mean that I'm talking about from a level of something that would be a process of less than 30,000 that will be done at a level of a management area, and so forth and so forth. But for where we are, and him giving, or him and his team giving a response, I'm sure we would have then talked about signatories that are dealing with major issues that happens to create these findings. To say, but if it's 1 million plus, I'm sure that's where if it was another entity, I would have said that's where the senior procurement officer is signing, the CFO is signing, and probably depending on the amount. If in municipal level, I would have said that the municipal manager signs on anything that is beyond 10 million and so forth and so forth. Something that is less than 10 million signed by these ones. So I would have expected a response that will deal with that, as opposed saying you don't know who, where, what they have. There are a number of people, therefore you can send if we want, he can send everybody who's a signatory. I don't think I'm comfortable with that kind of a response. Because I'm sure at this level, we deal with issues that we think are critical, and critical issues would be issues that are of a level, depending on the amount that we're dealing with. I thought I must make that point. The second point, Chair, I have asked a question on the service provider working in other government departments. I did not get a response to whether do we have such, because the purpose of the question, maybe I must learn in future in these portfolio committees that I ask a question and the purpose of it. So that when I get responses, I don't get responses that might offend me. The purpose of the question, Chair, is to establish whether are these service providers, if I'm saying, if this service provider, and here a mention of dimension data has been made, could be a service provider that is a problem. And check whether, how is the very same people giving a service to the police? And if they give a good service to the police and they create a problem here in the department that further or later creates or makes us to find ourselves where we are, then we would have to find a way of dealing with it. So that we also compare and so that we determine whether is it incapacity from these service providers or is it just that they are taking us as the department for granted. There was no response on it. I think the last part, Honorable Niaus have asked it around whether the people taken to court and if what. And then the National Commission also responds to say, we are responding with no, or we are questioning with no evidence. I wish he can clarify what he means with that. Because I think here in this portfolio committee, we are allowed to ask questions and of course make assumptions because what makes sense to us would have been this thing. Unless he says we have a duty to crisscross this department and it's something that is doable to some of us and come back with names. And if that's how you want to renegade this portfolio too, then you must say so. Because the question would have been, this is what is expected, but if there is some mildness found in the process, what would have been the next step? Because there is money involved, there is laws involved that deals with procurement, and an expectation that if something happens to be like this, there is an action expected to the person. And some of the actions, correctly as Honorable Niaus has said, some of the actions would have been issues that would have been charged criminally. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sokopo. Minister, the responses from the clarities that members have provided, especially towards their questions not thoroughly being answered.
Thank you, Chair. Let's give the NC opportunity if he can follow up, give more specific answers.
National Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and let me also thank the members for the follow-up issues that were raised. The two raised by Honorable Niaus, the longest outstanding cases, we will provide a response in writing as we have been given that opportunity, and also how many people have been charged or taken to court and sentenced. We'll also provide that, as I've indicated. It will be an extract from the normal consequence management report that is part of the HR reports. On the issue of the signatories, I welcome the guideline or the guidance from Honorable Sokopo, who will provide for the values that are above 1 million, as we have been guided. Service providers, the contract that the department has that the department had that has been in arbitration was procured outside the CETA legislation. That is one of the issues that made that contract irregular, and that's the contract that, as I was indicating, was still going through litigation. All other contracts that the GITO referred to, or CDC IT referred to, were procured through CETA, and CETA has databases that it has put in place through their procurement process. So we as the department have access to that database because we are procuring through CETA, and it's the database that other government departments are utilizing. So if it's like, for instance, for an example, if it's dimension data, as Honorable Sokopo has indicated, dimension data would have been utilized by another department. And now on the issue of performance monitoring and assessment, we do that jointly with CETA. If we have performance problems, CETA will have to come in because they are the custodian of IT for government. So yes, some of these service providers would have been utilized by other departments. The challenges that we are facing with regards to the audit findings on GITO or on IT, we have indicated that they are more on the side of strengthening internal controls. As to the other statement on evidence, Honorable Chairperson, I will not talk to that. I will also take the caution from Honorable Sokopo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable National Commissioner Samuel. Maybe me referring you to Honorable, it's a sign in the future. You don't know. Minister, are you satisfied with the responses that the National Commissioner has given to both the follow-ups of Honorable Sokopo Niehaus?
I'm satisfied, Chair. As NC has said, we take note. And I mean, it depends on the members whether they are satisfied, but we are trying our best. So I agree with the National Commissioner.
Siyabulela, Minister. Members, there are no follow-ups. Okay, then it means all is in order, and then all questions or clarities that were sought were responded to. And the outstanding information that is required based on how you would have wrapped it up, National Commissioner, do provide us with those updates or responses in writing to the committee secretary so that he can be able to populate to members with regards to what Honorable Niehaus had inquired on. Let's wrap up the meeting on unauthorized expenditure. You would have indicated as the department that you are waiting for a report from finance on the investigations. Would urge the department to ensure that the findings will be followed through, and there would be consequence management where possible or applicable in those findings. On irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we commend the department for investigating majority of cases. I think it's around 89% or 90%. And we urge the department to finalize the remaining cases within a reasonable period. On splitting of orders, we equally commend you as the department for reducing cases of splitting of orders by awarding long-term contracts. And we hope that the awarding of those long-term contracts followed through a proper procurement procedures or processes, so that there would be no issues that are picked up by the AG on them. Because of this has been one of the areas that the AG has been flagging the department on. GITO findings, we are however concerned that a significant number of findings still requires to be resolved on GITO, and we hope and urge the department to prioritize on the remaining findings, including finalizing the arbitration process that you are equally finding yourself in. And then on incarceration or findings on incarceration, we understand that on issues of overcrowding, which are continuously being raised or flagged by the Auditor General, it's not of your doing as the department, but let's ensure that you continuously implement the overcrowding strategy, and you continue to monitor and review where necessary to address the current challenges that you are encountering. We would have a portfolio committee that talks to what the minister would have poked in the budget vote in trying to mitigate these issues of overcrowding by reintroducing corporal punishment. We'll have to talk to that idea because of it has caused a serious turmoil in the country on it. And then the final recommendation would be that as much as we see good progress with regards to you or as the department implementing those audit action plans, there's still a lot of work that requires to be done, and would humbly request that you ensure that the remaining cases should not appear in the next annual report for the 2025-2026. And perhaps before we have the annual report, we should have a meeting before that for you as the department to take us through how far you are as done today. So we did request that you do write or give us in writing the outstanding requests that members have requested, which we were unable to produce now in the meeting. The committee secretary will facilitate that process, and we hope, National Commissioner, it's done within a certain period. We don't have to sit next week in a portfolio committee and still we would not have received those reports. You would have to equally at some point, not next week, would try to set it up with the committee. As the department, you would require to take us through on the review of the Correctional Service Act, 311 of 1998, your process of reviewing the whole act. When are you intending to start the process? And what becomes your timeframes on it? Because of the issue of foreign nationals, it's a burning issue in the country, and we must be seen doing something on the side of legislation to assist that process. So you would be required to come back to the portfolio committee to talk to this. When are you intending to do it? As presented in the APP, when you were presenting your APP and budget for 2025-2026. As I indicated again, the minister equally would have to come back and take us into confidence or take us through his idea of wanting to open up a debate on corporal punishment, because it has sparked a lot of debate, which has made us as the portfolio committee to be extremely busy with media houses requesting interviews, our views and so forth, whereas in its individual views compared to being a portfolio committee view. So we would need to be taken into confidence by the minister on these sessions, so that equally members of the portfolio committee can make recommendations on those and have a viewpoint as the portfolio committee on this matter. So those are the recommendations, colleagues in the department led by the minister, with regards to the audit action plans, including the review of the whole Correctional Service Act and including the assertions that minister would have made on corporal punishment. So we have come, before we close the meeting, we have 2 new members who have joined us in the portfolio committee. It's unfortunate they have joined us on the virtual platform. I'm not sure if they're still here. Honorable Hendricks, representing Patriotic Alliance, are you still here? Who has replaced Honorable Daniels? Honorable Daniels replaced.
I'm still here.
Okay, it's fine. You are here. Honorable Daniels remains an alternate member to the portfolio committee, but Honorable Hendricks remains now a full-time member. If you could kindly show your face so that members can see you. Honorable Hendricks. Thank you so much and welcome again to the portfolio committee. We have a new member for MK Party. It's Honorable Sia. Ooh, I don't want to pronounce the surname wrong. It's Honorable Shangase. I'm not sure if Honorable Shangase, Mr. Shangase, if he's here. Is he here, Sia?
Hi, Chair. Yes, he's here with me, and his phone is giving him some problems. So he's gonna use my laptop to show his face.
Okay, thank you so much, Babgasa. Mr. Shangase, welcome to the portfolio committee. I got the ATC from Parliament that says from the Speaker's office that talks to the change of membership with regards to the MK Party, which the MK Party has discharged or released Honorable Matutu from the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services and has now appointed to serve alongside Honorable Babgasa, Honorable Shangase, who would become a full-time member and has alternately also appointed Honorable Taibosh as an alternate member. So, Honorable Shangase, welcome to the Portfolio Committee of Correctional Services. Babgasa would take you through the work of the Portfolio Committee in the past year, and we hope going forth would have fruitful engagements with an insight coming from you on how we can effectively play our oversight role to both the executive and the department. If you permit, can you kindly show your face so that members can see you?
Thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members. Yes, I'm Lungisani Shangase, so I'm happy to join this committee, and I hope we will work together from now and onwards.
Shangase, I don't see your face. Is it me or is it not? I see. Am I the only one who can see him?
We have okay. Let me see, because we had a problem of video. Let me see if it shows. Oh yeah, now we can.
Can see you.
Now you can see me. Okay. Yes, Chair.
Thank you so much and welcome once again to the Portfolio Committee.
Okay, thanks, Honorable Chair.
Siyabonga Babgasa for ukusincedisa on this one.
Siyabonga, Chair. Thank you so much.
With that, we have come to the end of the Portfolio Committee with the department. Members, we still have our own meeting where we're going to discuss our minutes of the previous Portfolio Committee sittings. But we've come to an end with the department, whom would require them to excuse themselves so that we can remain as members and continue with our work. Minister, any parting words before you could be released?
The minister has left. I've seen him exiting, Chair. I'm not sure.
Okay, DM, you can continue since he has left.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Let me appreciate the opportunity that has been given. I've been following quietly, so all those that were requested from us as a department, I think we will definitely provide in terms of reports or detail that is needed. But where I am satisfied with the response given. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, DM, and thank you for following through. You can mute your video, DM. Thank you. Then in that instance, DM with your team of the department, you can therefore excuse us. The meeting with yourselves has adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Sia, is it only us?
Yes, Chair. I'm just double checking, Chair. It's our members and PMGs.
I saw Honorable Matutu online. Has he left already?
No, Honorable Matutu is still here, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's us, Chair, and PMG. Thank you.
Okay, you can start to flag the first minutes that we need to go through. Members, draft minutes, the first draft minutes that we're required to go through, it's the minutes of the 3rd of June, which we had a physical meeting on in committee room 1. And this was a briefing by JIX on progress in establishing the bail fund in South Africa. And we equally as well considered adoption of committee minutes. You can go down, Sia. The minutes will equally be taken as read, members, because we received them in advance, which it was enough time for all of us to be able to go through them, establish where they are correct, where we need to correct, or where we might have left off to be included in the minutes, so that it reflects the work and the contribution of the committee meeting that we had. So it shall be taken as read, received and read. So those are minutes, colleagues, of the 3rd of June. The discussion was the bail fund, the proposed bail fund that JIX is piloting. Honorable Niehaus.
Thank you, Chair. I think the minutes are fine. I've read through them. I propose that we adopt it.
Thank you so much. There's a mover for adoption. Can we get a seconder? On Ms. James.
Seconded, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The minutes of the 3rd of June are duly adopted. Sia, let's flag other minutes. The minutes of on the 17th of June of the Portfolio Committee, we equally had a physical meeting in Committee Room 1, and the briefing was by the department on its second and third quarter performance report for the 2024-2025 financial year. And the minutes would be taken as read because we would have received them in advance to allow us sufficient time to go through them, either correct the spelling or where we think it's not properly captured, and add where we think it was omitted by the team. So you can go down, Siam. Thank you so much, Sia. Those were the minutes of 17th of June on the second and third quarter report. Members?
I'll propose.
Honorable Engel proposes for adoption. Any seconder?
I second, Chair.
And
So much, Honorable Niehaus seconds the adoption of the minutes on the 17th of June. Sia, do we still have others? How many minutes are we doing?
about 5, Chair. Sorry, Chair, there's a mistake on the previous minutes, Chair. The date is supposed to reflect the 10th. My apologies, not the 17th. The 17th will be the next set I'm going to display. My apologies. Let me just flight it again, Chair. My apologies.
Do we still move for the adoption and the secondment of them with the amendment of correcting the date?
These should be the meetings of the ones we've just flighted, Chair, would have been the meeting of the 10th, where we did the quarterly report. Then the 17th is the one I'm going to follow up. My apologies. We just need to amend the date to the 10th. Otherwise, the content is the same.
Okay. Do we still, Honorable Engel and Niehaus, do you still move and second with the
I
amendment?
second, Chair. If Honorable Engelbrecht moves, I'll second. Thanks.
Okay. Engel?
Yes, no, I'll move.
Okay, thank you so much. Then fly to the 17th one, Sia. Okay. Then the 17th of June minutes would be when we received, we're physical as well in Mark's building, when we received a briefing by both the department and GICS on their annual performance plans and including budget for 2025-2026. So the minutes will be taken as read because we received them in advance for us to correct or to add where it might be omitted by the team. So yeah, you can go down. Okay, thank you. Members, those were the minutes. Any mover?
I move, Chair.
Thank you so much, Babkasa. Any seconder?
I'll second, Chair. It seems that the members are going on go slow.
Thank you so much, Honorable Niehaus. I see as well. They are here, but they are not here. Sia, the fourth minutes. The fourth set of minutes are for a meeting on the 24th of June, which was on the virtual platform, which was last week. Was it last week or last of last week? I think last week. On briefing on rehabilitation and reintegration programs, or it was last of last week, where we equally also adopted the budget vote report, which required us to debate on in the House. So the minutes will be taken as read because of we received them in advance to allow us to make additions or correct where it's not properly captured by the team. So here you can go down. Thank you so much, Sia. Members, do we attest that those are the true reflection of the minutes of the meeting of the 24th?
I move, Chair.
I second, Chair. These are the true reflection. Thank you, Comrade Honorable Moela.
Thank you, Moela. We then move to last sets of the minutes. And the last sets of minutes was a meeting, the PC meeting of last week, where we received a briefing on the use of consultants, an update on establishing bakeries across all correctional facilities, including the cost breakdown on bread supply. The minutes will be taken as read because we received them in advance to allow us sufficient time to be able to add or to correct where the team would have omitted or not captured correctly. So you can take it down, Sia. Thank you so much, Sia. Members, the minutes of last week Portfolio Committee meeting, the 1st of July, are the minutes true reflection of what transpired in the meeting?
I will move.
I'll second, Chair.
You were part, Hendricks?
Yes, ma'am. Hence I was quiet, ma'am. I was part of this one. I waited for this one, ma'am.
Okay.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I think it was an omission on our side for not recognizing you last week. But thank you for both Engel and yourself, Honorable Hendricks, for moving for the adoption of our last minutes of last week's meeting. So members, those were the minutes that were required to adopt or correct where we needed to. And lastly, next week, we are supposed to be meeting the Department of Public Works. Yes, we're supposed to be meeting the Department of Public Works led by the Minister with regards to the user charge fee, including infrastructural issues in correctional facilities that we would have bared witness when we did the oversights, both in Gauteng and KZN, including Paulsmoor. So with the communication, as I indicated last week, with the communication that has went out by the Chair of Chairs, Honorable Frolik, that we require to apply for meetings, for portfolio committee meetings to sit, because they do not want any disturbance on the mini plenaries. So we did apply for today's portfolio committee meeting. We're granted to be able to sit. So we have done the same for next week to sit the meeting, and the meeting would be physical. Unfortunately, it can be a virtual one because it's going to have both departments, the Department of Correctional Services, led by the Minister, and including Public Works, led by the Minister, so that we put to rest the issue of user fee charges. Sia, have we received any response from the Office of the Chair of Chairs for our sitting next week?
No, Chair, we have not received the response yet. I'm anticipating a response during the course of the day or first thing tomorrow, Chair, and I will communicate as soon as we get that, Chair.
Thank you. So with that said, members, as soon as we get a response with regards to the Office of Chair of Chairs on the guidance on how we should proceed next week, the committee secretary will communicate immediately after that so that you can equally be able to do your itineraries according to that response. If it means we would be granted to sit, it means the committee secretary will then deal with arrangements of the meeting venue. And no, the meeting venues will likely not be Good Hope Chamber or M46 because of both venues are where many plenaries are hosted. But we hope to get a bigger venue that will be able to accommodate both delegations to the meeting if we get granted. But if we do not get granted, it means we require to get the diary of the Minister of Public Works to be able to get a suitable date that he would be comfortable to come before the portfolio committee again. And once more, we have not yet received a possible date from the Minister of Justice when she would like to lead the delegation of her department to come to the portfolio committee to speak on areas that would have highlighted to the department. So as soon as we do get that response from the Minister of Justice, we would equally communicate. And then for next week with Public Works, we'll await the House Chairperson, the response on that. So those were the two things that I wanted to take the members through so that you are aware when the committee secretary communicates, you were at least taken aboard on them. So members, that was the last part of our meeting today. Therefore, the meeting stands adjourned and hope to see you next week.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chair.
Bye.
Bye.
Recording stopped.
See, I can leave now, Musa.
No, Chair, we're good. I'll just follow up with House Chair's office and then.
Matutu. Bab Matutu.
Chairperson.